Yeah. You saying hi? What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today is gonna be my second trimester recap. Hi, Thor. I know you feel left out. So a second trimester starts at like 13 weeks and then ends at the end of your 27th week. So it started at the very end of February and it went until like right at the beginning of June. When I started my second trimester, we were in Florida. We were going to Disney World and we also went to Universal Studios. I was still pretty sick, still pretty nauseous, but it was like a little bit better than it had been before. And honestly, it was nice to just get out of like the ordinary and like get out of the house and just be somewhere else. At Universal Studios, I wasn't able to go on like a lot of the rides. Was one thing about my second trimester is that I was still like pretty sick. A lot of people said that like your sickness will lighten up or it'll go away by your second trimester, and mine, I think it lightened up a little bit, but I was still I was still throwing up almost every day. Like, fun thing about the second trimester is you start to show a little bit, and I started showing around like 18 weeks. And I had like the smallest bump, but I was so proud of it. I was like, I'm totally showing, even though it was like barely anything. During my second trimester, I had some very interesting doctor's appointments. So I ended up like switching doctors like halfway through my pregnancy, and it's because the first place I went to was not good at all. My very first appointment, they asked me like what ultrasounds I wanted to get and like what like tests I wanted to get done throughout my pregnancy, and it was like confusing. I didn't really know like which ones to pick. I didn't even know. And I remember I was super sick during my first appointment, so I was just kind of like picking ones. But I picked one where I wanted to get an ultrasound done and a blood test done. They have to do that ultrasound during like specific weeks of your pregnancy. I didn't like realize that at the time, and so I ended up not getting it done because the doctors didn't realize that that was something that I wanted. And so when I was like 14 weeks, it was my third doctor's appointment. And that whole doctor's appointment was horrible. Like, so I go in, everything is like pretty normal at the start. I get taken back by my nurse and she does my weight, takes all my vital, like does all the things that they do during all of your pregnancy checkups. I remember I got weighed and she told me what my weight was. She took my blood pressure, and then she took me back to the room. And she tried to weigh me again, and I was like, you already did that. It was this. And she was like, oh, and then she did the Doppler on my tummy and like found the baby's heart rate. She didn't write it down. So she left, and then usually like I'm in there waiting for like the doctor to come in or whatever. And she left, and she comes back with the Doppler again, ready to do it on my tummy. And I was like, you already did that. And she was like, oh, I did. And I was like, yes, the heartbeat was this. And like had to tell her what the heartbeat was again. And so I was already like frustrated that like she didn't write down my weight, and like and now she's not writing down like the heart rate. And she leaves again, and we're sitting in the room for who knows how long. And then she comes back and she's like, oh, did you like ever get this test done with the blood test and all that stuff done at your like 13-week appointment? And I was like, no, I didn't. And she was like, well, it's too late to do it now, so let me go see like what we can do. And I was like, okay. And so she leaves again. She comes back and she's like, okay, so we can't do this ultrasound because it's too late, and we can't do this specific blood test because it's too late. It needed to be during like this specific time in your pregnancy. And I'm just like, okay. And then she said, but we can do this other blood test just to find out the gender early. And so I was like, okay, like let's just do that, I guess. So she leaves, comes back in, is like, hey, we got you all set up, like we're gonna do the blood test. And she's like, I'll go tell the doctor you're ready. And so she goes and tells the doctor that I'm ready to see him. Doctor comes in and he starts to get to know Aaron and like starts like talking to him, and like I'm basically like just sitting on the table just for who knows why, and he's like talking to Aaron, getting to know Aaron, and then he looks at me and he's like, do you have any questions? I was like, no. And I'm just like, okay, the nurse is gonna come back in, take your blood, and then you're good to go. And I was like, okay. So the doctor leaves, the nurse comes back in with stuff to draw my blood. She comes in with vials, comes in with the needles, and she sticks my arm with the needle, and she misses the first time, which is fine, that happens, I get it, and gets it the second time, and then she starts filling these vials of my blood. So she realizes that she doesn't have enough vials. So she is like, Aaron, can you get into that drawer over there and pull out a vial for me, and so I can fill it? And I was like, you're having my husband do your job? And I was just like, what is going on? This whole doctor's appointment was pretty bad. The nurse didn't write down any of my stats. I had to tell her my stats. She didn't write down the baby's heart rate, and I had to tell her what my baby's heart rate was. She wasn't able to find the vein the first time, which is fine, but it still hurt. And then she didn't bring enough vials to fill up my blood. And then the doctor, like, didn't even, like, really get to know me. He was just, like, getting to know Aaron. And, like, at that point, I was like, why am I even here? After that doctor's appointment, I was just like, I hate this place. And it was, like, I went home and realized, like, they forgot, like, a test that I had asked for. They forgot an ultrasound that I had asked for. Like, the nurse didn't know what she was doing. Like, she was not taking care of me, and like the doctor was like barely acknowledging me, and I was like, I'm the one who's pregnant. After that appointment, I was like, I need to talk to other people to see like if there's a better doctor I could be seeing or a different place I should be going. And I actually found someone who also went to the same clinic that I had been going to, who really treated her really bad. Like, they messed up a test for her that could have harmed her and her baby. And after like hearing that, I was like, I need to switch. So yeah, I talked around a ton. I figured out like if I was gonna switch, I figured out who I was gonna go to. But I'm like this weird type of person where it's like I feel bad switching, so I obviously made like my next appointment with the same people I had, which was my 20-week appointment with my anatomy scan. I feel like I have to back up a little bit because at the very beginning of my pregnancy, my insurance had changed, and so I had to go in and tell them that I no longer had that insurance and they needed to change it to a different primary insurance. They didn't. And so like I would go in and they were like, hey, like your insurance isn't paying for anything. And I was just like, well, that's because it's not my insurance. Like I told you to switch it last time. And they just like never did. My 20-week appointment, which was on the same day that we were moving apartments. And I had to go in and be like, hey, by the way, like my address has changed. And they were like, okay, so what's your new address? And they were like, is this still your insurance? And I was like, no, that's still not my insurance. So they just like kept billing the wrong insurance. I go in for my 20-week appointment. We were there for a really long time for the anatomy scan because we were like, maybe she'll turn, but she never did. After the ultrasound part of it, we went in to wait for the doctor and waited for a really long time. He finally came in and was like, do you have any like questions about anything? And I remember I had one question, and I remember like he didn't know the answer to it, and he was just like, yeah, I don't really know the answer to it, sorry. And then we left, and I was like, okay, we're switching. I finally got like the courage to like call the new place, make an appointment. It was like a couple weeks later. I canceled my old appointment with the other place. I go to the first appointment at the new place, and it is like night and day from the old one. Like, it is so much nicer. I'm treated so much better. Like, no one was forgetting, like, to write down my vitals. No one was forgetting, like, to write down my stats. All my information was going into the same place on a computer, and like the doctor that I was seeing was actually like trying to get to know me and like have like a connection rather than just like, hey, do you have questions? Okay, bye. And so like he was like actually like trying to get to know me, and like Aaron as well. He also was very good at letting us know like what to expect in the future and what was going to happen next, and just like what to expect with pregnancy in general. And like he answered questions that, like, I didn't even know I had. It was night and day. Like, I couldn't believe that I'd been going to the first place for so long, because they treated me like I was a checklist. Like, here's this person, ask the questions, check it off, send her on her way. Like, literally, that was what it was like. Oh, and I was gonna say, when I went in for my first appointment for the new place, they already had my information, so they were just, like, verifying it, and they were like, is this still your insurance? And I was like, no, like, delete that out of there. And they were also like, is this still your address? And I was like, no, that's not my address. And so they got it all changed and fixed, and it stuck. I didn't have any problems with my insurance at that place. After my appointment, like the next day, I called the old place that I was going. I said, hey, I'm going to be switching to the new place for good. And the lady was like, well, can I ask why? And I listed everything that happened to me at that doctor's appointment. But the nurse said didn't really know what she was doing. I also told her it was because that place, they had 5 rotating doctors, and you were encouraged to see every single doctor and go to a different doctor for each of your appointments. And I was like, I don't like that I am encouraged to see 5 different doctors, and I know that's super normal to have different doctors like that. The lady on the phone was trying to tell me that her daughter had 9 rotating doctors, and when it came time to deliver her baby, she hadn't even met the doctor that delivered her baby. And at that point I was just like, I don't care about your daughter's experience. Like, you guys have 5 doctors that rotate, and this new place has 2. And you're not encouraged to, like, see each other, like, to go to this one and then go to the next one and then go to this one and the next one each time. It's like you can pick, like, oh, I want to see this one every single time if you can. At the new place, I saw the same doctor every single time except for once. And that was really nice, and I felt like he knew me, and, like, he took care of me, and that's what I wanted, so I got what I wanted. So it was like the best decision to switch doctors, even though it was halfway through my pregnancy. I think that was super nerve-wracking to switch, but once I switched, I realized that, like, the first place did nothing for me compared to the second place. I also started my internship during my second trimester. I was 20 weeks when I started my internship, and I remember going to a meeting, and we were like all introducing ourselves, and I was like, I'm pregnant and like halfway there, and like no one believed me. I was like, yeah, so if you see me like getting bigger, it's because I'm pregnant. When I turned 20 weeks was the very last day that I threw up. Yeah, so I started going to my new doctor at 24 weeks. When I was like 25, 26 weeks, I started getting like really bad Braxton Hicks. I got tons of them, and they would only happen while I was at work at my normal job. I worked at Hobby Lobby as a customer service manager, as a floor associate, as a cashier. It was kind of just like wherever they needed me, that's what I did. I would only get Braxton Hicks while I was working there. It got to the point where I was just like, I'd go to work and I'd like do anything and everything just to like sit down and like rest. And like every time I felt like the Braxton Hicks were coming, I like would try to go sit down as fast as I could. So I realized I needed to quit my job earlier than I had planned. So I quit my job right around 28 weeks, which is like the start of the 3rd trimester. And I like originally planned to work until like 34, 36 weeks. For my internship, I was able to like sit down a lot, and I was able to take things easy. And so it was like a really good internship to have during my pregnancy. So yeah, that is my second trimester. I feel like a lot of people say that it gets better during your second trimester, but I think my second trimester for me was pretty rough. I think I just had like a rough pregnancy in general. I was still sick and I had like really bad Braxton Hicks and I was still nauseous. Anyways, so thanks for watching my video. The next video will be my third trimester recap, and eventually I'll be sharing my birth stories. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you can watch those videos. Don't forget to comment down below and like this video. Thanks for watching!